This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. I enjoy being right. Like anybody else, right? I enjoy it. There's a joke that I like to toot my own horn on the podcast. We even have a sound for it. These these horns that play. I'm not going to do that here today, but I'm going to play a clip for you from Friday of last week when I talked about this letter that was sent by the United States Senate Judiciary Committee with Dick Durbin as chair, sent to John Roberts to politely ask for his presence and his testimony related to what is happening in the Supreme Court right now. Now the heat is even up higher now that we know that Neil Gorsuch, along with Clarence Thomas, is acting wildly unethically, taking money for properties from people who have cases before the courts. The same thing with Clarence Thomas. And I questioned whether or not, why we are just sending a request and, we cordially invite you to come and have a sit and talk with us about things. I thought they needed to be more aggressive. And now we're learning that I was right. It was needed. I think I used the word radical. Anyway, here's the clip. Here's the clip of me last Friday talking about the invitation for John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Anyway, it goes on here, but they are asking for his testimony. They are asking him to show up or to send someone in his stead who sits on the Supreme Court as a representative with the answers they seek from the Chief Justice. It is all a little bit too glad-handy for me. I think they should just subpoena him, just compel his testimony. But maybe it is the prudent thing to do to first extend an invitation and then see if things need to be escalated. I'm me. Maybe I'm a little radical. But we need answers. We need answers. And it turns out I'm not being radical. I'm being real. I live in reality. I face reality on reality's terms. And I had a sense that the likelihood of John Roberts accepting an invitation from the United States Senate Judiciary Committee was close to nothing. So here we are with a rejected invitation to testify, and the question, what are Democrats going to do? Because we have a problem on our hands, and we need answers about how to go about fixing it. With Clarence Thomas going on luxurious vacations, staying in the homes of billionaires. Set aside the fact that the guy he's dining with and living with for vacations is a collector of Hitler memorabilia. We'll just set that aside. It is a man who had at least one case before the court while Clarence Thomas was going on vacations and hanging around and having him buy properties from him. And now we're learning the same thing about Neil Gorsuch. We need answers. This is our government, and the Supreme Court is in no way immune from oversight from the Congress. In fact, I'll give you a little flavor of it. Here's a news package about this. Then I'll talk about it and refresh your memory on what John Roberts said about whether or not they needed ethical standards. Watch this.
Turning now to Capitol Hill, where Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts has declined an invitation to testify at a congressional hearing regarding ethics rules for members of the Supreme Court. The calls for a hearing come after reports that Justice Clarence Thomas took trips paid for by a wealthy Republican donor. For more, we're joined by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. So, Ryan, good morning. What more can you tell us here about the Chief Justice's decision here not to testify? And also, what are we hearing from people on the panel like Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin?
Lindsay, it's not a big surprise that the Chief Justice chose not to accept the invitation from the Senate Judiciary Committee. There's always been a pretty clear line between the authority of the court and the authority of Congress. But these new questions about ethics surrounding the Chief Justices, the justices in particular, I should say, has members of Congress starting to be concerned. And that's why they wanted Roberts to come before the panel and answer questions. Now, Democrats on this panel are in a bit of a bind because the only other option they would have to compel Justice Roberts to come and speak before the panel would be a subpoena. But because of the issues that they have with Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, who is still dealing with a medical absence, would make it impossible for them to get enough votes to subpoena Justice Roberts. So it seems pretty clear that at this point, it's just going to be a war of words between the two sides and no real conversation taking place, at least not yet.
I want to push back on one thing that he said there, and that is there's always been a pretty clear line between the authority of the United States Supreme Court and the Congress. That is not, of course there's a clear line, but it's not as clear as he's making it out to seem, that the Supreme Court runs completely independent. That's not the way our government was set up. There are checks that the executive has over the legislative branch through veto, through other means. There are checks that the Congress has over the executive, and the same thing exists with the judiciary. In the Constitution of the United States, it gives the power to organize the courts to Congress. If they should impose through legislation a code of ethical standards that is enshrined in law and not leave it up to the court, because this is what happens. In the letter they sent, they said this: 11 years ago, several members of the committee, including the current chair, sent you the attached letter urging the court to adopt a resolution stating that the justices of the court abide by the Judicial Conference's Code of Conduct for United States judges, a code that binds every other judge in the federal judiciary. You responded that the court, quote, does not plan to adopt the Code of Conduct for United States judges through a formal resolution, and referenced your 2011 year-end report in which you said, and this is what John Roberts said, again as a refresher, the court, John Roberts speaking, the court has had no reason to adopt the Code of Conduct as its definitive source of ethical guidance. He doesn't want rules. John Roberts. He wants to let the members of the Supreme Court run roughshod over ethics, morality, to do what they please, and then declare from on high their rulings down to the people, as though they are immune from interference from people who will lobby them or pay them or bribe them or extort them. This is a high priority. This isn't just another one of those stories that comes and goes. This is a big, big deal. The independence of our judiciary is the lifeblood of our system of government. Once the judiciary's gone, it's over. And that's not hyperbole. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail. Big story, big deal. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Please consider supporting my work. Go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. That's another big deal. Every dollar goes a long way, helps a lot in supporting this program, producing this program, and my podcast. I say it a lot, but if there is someone else out there who does bring you value in the independent media space, go support that person. It doesn't have to be me, although, of course, it would be great if it was me. But if not, go support somebody and help produce their work in this space, in this time. It's very important. You can also click the join button below, become a channel member for $2 a month. Every bit goes a long way. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'd love to see you there. And I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.